and welcome to Coffee and a Conversation with Capital News. I'm Jacqueline and I'm joined here today with Stephen Johnston. He's a city councillor in West Kelowna and he's currently running as an unaffiliated independent candidate in the West Kelowna-Peachland riding. Now, Stephen, how do you take your coffee?
I take my coffee cream or 2 cream, no sugar.
Well, let's get to it then.
Let's get to it.
Stephen, what do you think? Craft 42 coffee.
It's delicious. I like when you do a craft brew and you do it right, it's a very different experience. So it's great coffee, Craft 42. Thank you.
Oh, phenomenal. So you're family man. I heard you brew all sorts of coffee at home.
Yeah.
You're very busy. You've been, city councillor, RDCO, you have a business. You've been very involved in municipal politics for years now. Why is it that this election you decided to run as an MLA? Why the shift to provincial?
Yeah, so I mean, you never really know when the opportunities are going to surface, especially at the provincial and federal level. So we have a great MLA on the Westside, Ben Stewart. He had decided he's going to retire, and so I had been, a member of the BC United Party for a long time, and I put my name forward and said I'd be interested in running, and went through the nomination process and the vetting process, and was accepted as their candidate. So it's, didn't really know that was going to come, that opportunity, but it came, and I was very fortunate to go through that process. Things have changed. There's no longer a BC United Party to represent, so I am running as an independent now, but it's been a pretty incredible journey. I've been in it since last February, and it's different now, but it's really good, and I love connecting with my community. I love being out in the public, at the events, at the doorstep, and just getting to know the heartbeat and the issues in West Kelowna-Peachland.
Mm-hmm. So that decision, Kevin Falcon, John Rustad, that press conference of theirs that they held when it was announced that support for BC United candidates would be withdrawn. There's a lot of questions left up in the air. Why did you decide to stick with it, and why did you decide to continue on as an unaffiliated candidate?
Yeah, so in our riding at the time, there was myself and the Conservative candidate. So, my commitment to the riding had never changed, whether Kevin had decided to make that change or not. And so, for me to step back, a lot of people don't understand. If I step back, we would be left with a single candidate. And I knew from personal experience that the NDP had been struggling to find a local candidate that was, of the caliber they were looking for. And I felt very honored, actually, because a number of people had been asked and came to me personally and said, hey, just want to let you know I'd been asked to be the NDP candidate, but I respect you, you're fair, you're just, you're here for the right reasons. I'm not going to run against you. And so I knew that if I had stepped back, I would be replaced, like that vacuum would be filled by a very strong NDP candidate. And also, too, there would have been other independents that came forward as well. So I had actually been approached by a couple of people that said, if you don't stay in it, I'm going to be running as an independent. So it was never this opportunity to say, we'll pull out and leave a sole candidate there for everyone to vote for. That vacuum was always going to be filled. And really, I believe that our community needs choice, right? So democracy demands that you have the choice not only to how to live your life, but who to vote for in your elections. And I think it represents a great opportunity for our riding to say, hey, let's take a look at all the candidates, let's watch the interviews they're doing, let's see how they handle themselves at debates, and let's choose the very best representative for our community. So I have been in the community my whole life, and I have a lot of experience that's really missing across the board when you look at candidates these days. So yeah, I think that the community has spoken loud and clear to me that they're very thankful to continue to have that choice. So I'm happy to be there for them.
Mm-hmm. So your community, West Kelowna-Peachland, has unique challenges that impact it compared to other communities in the Okanagan. What are some of the unique challenges that are facing West Kelowna residents for this election cycle?
So there's a major lack of investment into the riding of West Kelowna-Peachland, and so that's really from Peachland all the way through to Westside Road. So we are served by a single transmission power line, which is a huge issue, and we've been advocating as a municipality for that for over 12 years now. We were, back when Christy Clark was our MLA and the Premier, we had moved our way up into the capital planning phase with BC Hydro, but then it got kicked back when the NDP took government. So we really need to get that project moving. It would be catastrophic, to say the least, if we had a major power failure. And it's almost happened twice in the last few years with wildfire. So we need to get that put on the 5-year capital plan and accelerate it as best we can. We need major investments in our highway corridor. So we have a lot of at-grade intersections on the highway through West Kelowna and Peachland, and we need to see interchanges and improve the flow and the safety of traffic for our residents, but also Westside Road. Westside Road it's one of the most dangerous roads in Canada. And there's been no investment in the last decade, really, since the NDP has come here, and we have to, not just with major sections that need to be repaired, but also crack filling, asphalt pavement management. They're undergoing a governance study in the Northwest side too, so we need to make sure that they're taken care of in that process, that we do that due diligence and justice to that process. So there's a number of, and then housing. So housing is a huge thing. Low income and seniors housing, we are massively underserved by our low income and senior housing options. So compared to communities like Penticton or Vernon of similar size, we have thousands of units fewer available to our seniors. And so it's of primary importance. And then just investment in the smaller things, like just the infrastructure. We've been a rural area predominantly for really a lot longer than we should have been. And as a result, we've got aging infrastructure that's not meeting an urban standard. And so we need some help from the province to get some of that infrastructure back up to speed. So yeah, there's a lot of local things specific to that riding for this election. Mm-hmm.
So you've lived in West Kelowna really all your life, and now you're raising a family there. What are some of the changes that you've seen over that time period of living in West Kelowna? What direction do you want to take it in?
Wow, it's changed so much. I remember we moved here when I was 6 years old, and I remember honestly the day we drove down Dobbin, turned on the highway, and there was this big field on the right of hubcaps where the winners are, or where the winners in that complex is. It was just a field of hubcaps, and I'm like, what is this place? And there was Old McDonald's Farm on the left of the highway. There was Mariner's Reef up on the hill. We had go-karts, and it was just a very different place. And I am very proud of the way we've developed as a community. And I think in West Kelowna, one of the things that has always been important to me is to put forward a strong community vision and an official community plan that allows us to grow in the way the community wants. And we've been able to do that this past term. And so the growth that we're experiencing is actually significant. We're one of the fastest growing areas in all of Canada. And in BC, we're the Okanagan, as we know, it's one of the most desirable places in the province. So, but that growth, we've got to manage it in a way that's sustainable. So right now we're kind of being pushed through housing targets that are coming from the province to grow in a way that we can't keep up with properly. And so we have to find that balance and manage it better. We also need to invest in healthcare services on the west side too, because we are really underserved in healthcare. We have an urgent primary care center now, which is great, but we got to see the hours extended and the staffing improved. We need dialysis on the west side, and ultimately we're going to need a healthcare center because we're servicing, we're 20 years out from servicing 80 to 90,000 people on the west side. So.
No, certainly, and healthcare has been a huge concern for many people. People having to commute all the way from Peachland or Summerland, actually, I think, into Kelowna often to get some of the care they need. It's a huge journey. But running as an independent or an unaffiliated independent in this election, what kind of, if you are to be elected, what kind of power are you going to have in the ledge to make any of these changes, to enact these changes? Typically, these come from a party with, a candidate with the backing of a party. So what would you be able to do? What kind of power would you have?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the independents, first of all, too, I'll just talk about independents real quick. So a typical independent in an election would be one who prints off your nomination form from Elections BC, gets 75 signatures, and then gets approved, and that's sort of your vetting process. But myself, who's an unaffiliated candidate and a former BC United candidate, we were vetted by the official opposition party of BC. It was a weeks-long process, 44-page deep dive, social media scrubs and the whole like. So we're a different sort of caliber of candidate, I would say, as far as independents go. And as far as the opportunities we have, when you're an independent, you are accountable to your electorate. So you bring the needs and the concerns of your riding forward to government, and you hold the government accountable on behalf of the people that you serve. And that's a voice that you have on the legislative floor all the time. And so when you're a part of a party, and especially if you're an MLA that may be a backbencher, you bring your community concerns to the caucus, and maybe it gets through, but oftentimes you may not get to bring that to the legislative floor. As an independent, your voice, it rings through the entire time. And what the legislative correspondents and pundits are saying this time is that we do look like we're headed toward a minority government territory, in where these high caliber independents may actually hold the balance of power. So that's a significant opportunity for ridings across the central Okanagan who have really wonderful candidates to actually meaningfully impact policy and change and bring investment to our areas in a way that's never happened before. So it's actually an incredible opportunity.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how this election plays out. It'll be historic no matter what happens with a lot of the changes that have happened. I now want to pivot a little bit to talking about some of your favorite things. What has kept you in West Kelowna? So what is your favorite thing to do, in the fall time, this season, this time of year in West Kelowna?
Okay, so I love the fall. This year, my favorite thing to do is like door knocking. I don't get to do much else, but I love mountain biking. I love baseball. I was talking to Jordy earlier. I'm a huge baseball guy. Whether it's paddle boarding, hiking, just really enjoying what we have here to offer. I know for years, we would go through a summer and my wife and I would be like, wow, we went to the beach like twice. And so we've really made a strategic change over the last 5 years to say, we're gonna enjoy the Okanagan like a tourist enjoys it. So we really do a lot of that. And we try to support local businesses and restaurants just to make sure that they're thriving. So we love to go out and kind of sample the cuisine across the Westside. And just honestly, outdoors. That's what we love the most. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite trail that you want to shout out? A favorite trail network for mountain bikers?
Well, Smith Creek.
Yeah.
Like we're a provincially sanctioned trail now, and the Trail Society on the Westside, they have done a phenomenal job maintaining that trail network for years and years. And now that it's provincially recognized, it's even just got more investment into it. So phenomenal. If you've never ridden Smith Creek, you've got to do it. As far as hiking goes, you can't do it right now, but Rose Valley, that's where I grew up. So I have there's a ton of nostalgia for me when I go hiking in Rose Valley Regional Park and over the backside of the reservoir. But Goats Peak's amazing. There's so many options. Pincushion in Peachland, incredible hike if you haven't done that.
Yeah, well, it's a beautiful spot. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you so much for educating our viewers on a little bit about you. I really appreciate having you in today.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.